Darling, your mom changed the password. I can't use her card anymore. I heard Keisha's voice shrieking through the phone, even though my son Marcus hadn't put her on speaker. I was sitting in my living room, a cup of tea growing cold in my hands, and I could hear every word of her fury from 15 feet away. What do you mean she changed it? Marcus's voice rose, sharp and angry. Mom wouldn't do that. She knows we need access for the house payments and the kids' school fees. Well, she did. I just tried to order the new furniture for the dining room and the card was declined. Then I checked the banking app and she changed the password. I can't get in anymore. My hands trembled slightly, but not from fear. From anger, from the weight of finally taking back what was mine after 3 years of watching them drain me dry. I'm coming over there right now, Marcus said, his voice cold as ice. She's going to explain herself. I heard the call end, and I took a slow sip of my tea. Let him come, let them both come, because what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that I had been planning this moment for 6 months. And the real shock, that was still waiting. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to where this all started. 3 years ago, when my world was completely different. My name is Loretta Washington, and I'm 67 years old. I worked for 35 years as a nurse at Mercy General Hospital, saving every penny I could, investing wisely, and building a life I could be proud of. My husband, Jerome, passed away 12 years ago from cancer, and he left me our house, fully paid off, and a decent life insurance policy. Combined with my retirement savings and investments, I was comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable. I could travel once a year, help my son when he needed it, and still have peace of mind. Marcus is my only child. I raised him by myself after Jerome died, put him through college, watched him graduate with honors in business management. I was so proud. He met Keisha during his last year of college, and they got married 2 years later. I'll be honest, I had reservations from the start. Keisha came from money. Her parents owned several businesses in Atlanta, and she grew up with everything handed to her. She was beautiful, confident, and she knew it. But there was something in her eyes that bothered me. A coldness, a calculation, like she was always measuring what she could get from every situation. But Marcus loved her, and I loved Marcus, so I kept my mouth shut and welcomed her into our family. The problem started small, little comments here and there. Mama Loretta, is this really what you're wearing to the wedding? Keisha would say, looking at my church dress with barely hidden disgust. Marcus told me you used to work as a nurse. That must have been so hard, dealing with sick people all day. I could never do something like that. Your house is cute, but have you ever thought about updating it? Everything looks so old. I'd smile and nod, letting it roll off my back. I was raised to respect your children's choices, even when you didn't agree with them. Then came the twins, Deshawn and Destiny, my beautiful grandbabies. They're 5 years old now, and they're the light of my life. When they were born, everything changed. Marcus and Keisha had been living in a small apartment, and with 2 babies on the way, they needed more space. Marcus came to me one Sunday after church, looking stressed and tired. "Mom, we need help," he said, sitting at my kitchen table. Keisha's parents said they'd help us with a down payment on a house, but we need someone to co-sign because our credit isn't great yet, and we need help with the monthly payments until I get my promotion at work. I should have said no. Lord knows I should have said no. But those were my grandbabies coming into the world, and I wanted them to have a good home. How much help do you need? I asked. Maybe $2,000 a month for the mortgage, just until I get the promotion. They promised it to me by the end of the year. And if you could co-sign, we could get a better interest rate. $2,000 a month was a lot of money, but I could manage it. I'd cut back on some things, maybe cancel my travel plans for a while. Family comes first, that's what I believed. Okay, I said, but just until you get that promotion, then you take over the full payment. Marcus hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Thank you, Mom. I promise we'll pay you back for everything. That was 3 years ago. Marcus never got that promotion, or rather, he did get promoted, but somehow there was always another expense. Keisha wanted to decorate the house. The twins needed private school. They needed a bigger car. Keisha needed to hire a nanny because taking care of the twins herself was too stressful. And somehow, my $2,000 a month turned into $3,000, then $4,000, because I wasn't just paying the mortgage anymore. I was paying for their lifestyle. It happened gradually, like a frog in boiling water. First, Keisha asked if she could use my credit card for the twins' birthday party. Just this once, Mama Loretta. I'll pay you back next month. She never did. Then it was Christmas presents. Then it was furniture. Then it was her hair appointments and nail appointments and shopping trips. Marcus added my banking app to his phone just in case of emergencies. And suddenly, every week was an emergency. I tried to talk to Marcus about it multiple times. Son, I love you and I love those grandbabies, but I can't keep doing this. I'm retired. I'm living on a fixed income. You're spending more than I'm bringing in every month. I know, Mom. I know. But Keisha's going through a hard time right now. Postpartum depression, the doctor said. She needs retail therapy to feel better. And the twins deserve the best. You want them to have the best, don't you? Every time I brought it up, it was the same story. Keisha was stressed. The twins needed something. Just a little longer. Just until things got better. But things never got better. They only got worse. 6 months ago, I went to my bank to withdraw some money, and I discovered my savings account was almost empty. The account I'd built up over 35 years of hard work. The account that was supposed to last me through retirement and leave something for Marcus when I was gone. I had started with $280,000. Now there was less than $40,000. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and cried. Really cried, the kind of crying that comes from deep in your soul. Because I realized what had happened. I had given Marcus access to that account 2 years ago when I had knee surgery, just in case something happened, and he needed to pay my bills. I'd forgotten he still had access. I drove home and I started going through my credit card statements. Page after page of charges I didn't recognize. Designer stores, expensive restaurants, a weekend trip to Miami, luxury handbags, jewelry. Car payments for a Lexus I'd never seen. They had been living like millionaires on my retirement money. That night, I called my best friend Candace. Candace and I had worked together at Mercy General for 20 years before we both retired. She was the one person I knew would tell me the truth, even if it hurt. "Candace, I need your honest opinion about something," I said, my voice shaking. "Girl, what's wrong? You sound like you've been crying." I told her everything, the money, the credit cards, the savings account, all of it. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Then Candace said something I'll never forget. "Loretta, baby, they're robbing you blind. Your own son and his wife are robbing you blind, and if you don't stop them now, they're going to take everything you have and leave you with nothing. You hear me? Nothing." "But what can I do? He's my son. Those are my grandbabies." "Your son is a grown man with a job, and his wife comes from money. They don't need to take from you. They're choosing to. There's a difference. You need to cut them off. And you need to do it now, before it's too late." I knew she was right, but I didn't know how to do it. How do you cut off your own child? How do you look your grandbabies in the face and say no? Then something happened that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon, about 5 months ago. I decided to drop by Marcus and Keisha's house to see the twins. I had brought them some cookies I'd baked, their favorite chocolate chip. I used my key to let myself in because I'd always had a key for emergencies. The house was quiet, too quiet. I walked through the enormous living room, past the expensive furniture and the huge television on the wall, toward the kitchen. That's when I heard voices coming from upstairs. Keisha's voice and another woman's voice I didn't recognize. "Girl, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," Keisha was saying. "Playing nice with that old woman is exhausting." I froze at the bottom of the stairs. "Why don't you and Marcus just get your own place without her help?" the other woman asked. Keisha laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "Why would we do that? She's basically funding our entire lifestyle. We'd be stupid to stop now. Marcus's mother is so desperate to be part of the twins' lives that she'll do anything we ask. We've already taken most of her savings, and she hasn't said a word." "Damn, that's cold." "It's called being smart. Her house is paid off. So even when we drain her accounts completely, she'll still have somewhere to live. We're not heartless. Besides, Marcus deserves this. He spent his whole life taking care of her after his dad died. Now it's her turn to take care of us." My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I backed away slowly, quietly, and left the house the same way I came in. I sat in my car outside their house, those cookies still in my lap, and something inside me changed. The sadness and guilt I'd been feeling transformed into something else, something harder, something like steel. They thought I was stupid. They thought I was weak. They thought they could take everything from me, and I just let it happen because I was so desperate to be a good grandmother. They were wrong. I drove home and I started making plans, real plans. I contacted my bank and removed Marcus's access to all my accounts. I changed every password. I moved what was left of my money into new accounts he didn't know about. I canceled every credit card he and Keisha had been using. But I didn't say anything, not yet, because I needed to understand exactly how much they'd taken and what they'd used it for. I needed evidence. I hired a lawyer. His name was Isaiah Freeman, and he came highly recommended from Candace's nephew. Isaiah was young, smart, and hungry. When I told him my situation, his eyes went cold. "Mrs. Washington, What your son and daughter-in-law have done is called financial elder abuse. It's a crime. We need to document everything. Over the next 4 months, Isaiah and I built a case. We went through every bank statement, every credit card charge, every withdrawal. We documented it all. $240,000 gone in 3 years. Money spent on luxury items, vacations, cars, designer clothes. Not 1 penny of it spent on actual necessities for the twins. When you're ready, Isaiah said, we can file charges, criminal and civil. You can get your money back, and they can go to jail. Not yet, I told him. I need them to show me who they really are first. I need Marcus to choose. And that brought me to this morning, to me changing the passwords, to Keisha's screaming phone call, to my son driving over here right now to confront me. I heard his car screech into my driveway. The door slammed, heavy footsteps on my front porch. The doorbell rang once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. I took my time walking to the door, let him wait. When I opened it, Marcus stood there, his face red with anger. Behind him, Keisha sat in the car, her arms crossed, watching through the windshield like a general watching a battle. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" Marcus demanded, pushing past me into the house. "Why did you change all the passwords? Why did you cancel the credit cards? Do you know how embarrassing it was for Keisha to have her card declined in front of all her friends?" I closed the door slowly and turned to face my son. This man I had raised, sacrificed for, loved with everything I had. "Sit down, Marcus," I said quietly. "I don't want to sit down. I want answers." "Sit down." Something in my voice must have surprised him because he sat. I remained standing, looking down at him. "I changed the passwords because I'm done being your personal ATM machine. I canceled the credit cards because they're my credit cards, not yours. And if Keisha was embarrassed, maybe she should get a job and use her own money." Marcus's mouth fell open. "What are you talking about? We had an agreement. You said you'd help us." "I said I'd help you with the mortgage for a few months. That was 3 years ago. Do you know how much money you and Keisha have taken from me in 3 years?" "Taken? We didn't take anything. You gave it to us." I pulled out the folder Isaiah had prepared for me. The evidence. I dropped it on the coffee table in front of Marcus. $240,000, I said. "That's how much is gone from my retirement savings. Money I worked 35 years to save. Money that was supposed to last me through the rest of my life. Money that was supposed to be your inheritance someday. All of it gone." Marcus picked up the folder with shaking hands and started flipping through the pages. His face went from red to pale white. "Mom, I didn't know it was that much. Didn't you? Or did you just not care? That's not fair." "What's not fair," I said, my voice rising for the first time, "is that your wife called me an old woman she has to put up with. What's not fair is that she told her friend you're not heartless because at least I'll still have my house when you're done draining my accounts. What's not fair is that my own son let his wife rob me blind and said nothing." Marcus's face went white as snow. You heard that?" "I heard everything, and now so will everyone else." "What does that mean?" I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "It means you and Keisha are going to make a choice. You can pay me back every single penny you took, with interest, or my lawyer files criminal charges for financial elder abuse." You have 1 week to decide. Marcus stood up, the folder falling from his hands. You wouldn't. I'm your son. And I'm your mother. The woman who raised you alone after your father died. The woman who worked double shifts so you could go to college. The woman who co-signed for your house and gave you everything you asked for. And this is how you repay me? The front door burst open, and Keisha stormed in, her face twisted with rage. How dare you threaten my husband? She screamed. After everything we've done for you. I turned to her slowly. Everything you've done for me? What exactly have you done for me, Keisha? We let you see your grandchildren. We include you in their lives. Let me? Those are my grandbabies. You don't let me see them, and you're about to lose that privilege. You can't keep us from our children. No, but I can stop funding your lifestyle. And when you can't afford that big house anymore, because you can't pay the mortgage without my money, and when you can't afford the private school, and the nanny, and the luxury cars, what do you think is going to happen to your little perfect life? Keisha's eyes went wide with panic. She turned to Marcus. Tell her she can't do this. But Marcus was staring at the papers scattered on the floor, his face empty of color. She already did it, he whispered. That's when Keisha's mask finally slipped completely. Her face transformed into something ugly and vicious. You bitter old woman, she hissed. You're just jealous that we're young and successful, and you're all alone. No wonder your husband died and left you. Nobody wants to be around you. The room went completely silent. Marcus looked up at his wife, shock written all over his face. Keisha, don't... But I held up my hand. No, let her talk. Let her show you exactly who she is. Keisha was on a roll now, all her pretense gone. You think you're so high and mighty with your little savings and your little house? We could have taken everything and you wouldn't have done anything about it because you're weak, you're pathetic, and you're going to die alone because nobody loves you. I looked at my son, really looked at him. Marcus, do you feel the same way? He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Keisha, looked at me, and in that moment of hesitation, I knew. Get out of my house, I said quietly, both of you. Mom, you have 1 week to make your decision. After that, Isaiah files the charges, and Keisha, you just threatened me in my own home. Isaiah's going to love hearing about that. What do you mean? Keisha's voice had lost its edge, fear creeping in. I pulled my phone from my pocket and stopped the recording app. I mean, I recorded this entire conversation, every word, including you calling me pathetic and saying nobody loves me. That's going to sound real good in court. The look on both their faces was something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Now get out of my house before I call the police. They left, Keisha screaming threats the whole way to the car. I watched through the window as they drove away, my hands finally starting to shake. I had done it. I had finally stood up to them. But as I stood there in my living room, surrounded by the evidence of their betrayal, I realized something that made my blood run cold. If they'd taken this much while I was watching, what else had they done that I didn't know about? I picked up my phone and called Isaiah. I need you to dig deeper, I said. I want to know everything, every account they've opened in my name, every debt, every scheme, all of it. I'll start tomorrow morning, Isaiah promised. But tomorrow morning, I would discover something that would change everything. Something that would make the stolen money look like nothing. something that would make me realize this war was only just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's face when I asked him to choose. That hesitation, that moment when he looked at Keisha instead of defending me. Your own child looking at you like you're the enemy, that's a pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. I was sitting at my kitchen table at 6 in the morning, still in my nightgown, when my phone rang. Isaiah's name flashed on the screen. Mrs. Washington, we need to meet. Today. Right now, if possible. Something in his voice made my stomach drop. What did you find? Not over the phone. Can you come to my office in an hour? I got dressed faster than I had in years. My hands were shaking so bad I had to redo my lipstick 3 times. Candace called just as I was heading out the door. Girl, I had a dream about you last night, she said. Are you okay? I confronted them yesterday, Marcus and Keisha. And it went exactly like you said it would. Keisha showed her true colors. Marcus chose her side. Candace was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, baby. I know that hurts. I have to go meet with the lawyer. He found something. You want me to come with you? No, I need to do this alone, but pray for me. Iman Candace come. I have a feeling it's about to get worse. Already praying. Isaiah's office was in a nice building downtown. When his assistant showed me in, Isaiah was standing by his desk with a grim expression on his face. There was another man with him, someone I didn't recognize. Mrs. Washington, this is Detective Raymond Hayes. He works in the Financial Crimes Unit. My legs went weak. Financial crimes? Detective Hayes stood and shook my hand. He was a black man in his 50s, with kind eyes but a serious face. Mrs. Washington, please sit down. What we're about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear. I sat. Isaiah opened a thick folder on his desk. When you asked me to dig deeper, I ran a full credit check on you. Mrs. Foles, Washington, your son and daughter-in-law have opened 4 credit cards in your name without your knowledge. The total balance on those cards is $97,000. The room tilted. That's impossible. I never signed anything. They forged your signature, Detective Hayes said. We compared the signatures on the applications to your actual signature. It's clear forgery, which makes this a criminal matter. There's more, Isaiah said, and his voice was gentle now, like he was delivering news about a death. They took out a second mortgage on your house, $215,000. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. My house is paid off. Jerome and I paid it off 20 years ago. Not anymore. They refinanced it using forged documents and power of attorney papers you never signed. The money went into an account in your name, but they had full access to it. It's all gone. Where did it go? Isaiah flipped through more papers. Keisha's parents' business was failing. They used $150,000 to bail it out. The rest went to luxury purchases, investments in a restaurant that went bankrupt, and a down payment on a vacation property in Florida. I heard a sound like a wounded animal and realized it was coming from me. Detective Hayes leaned forward. Mrs. Washington, between the credit card fraud, the forged mortgage documents, and the financial exploitation of an elder, we're looking at multiple felonies. Your son and daughter-in-law could face 10 to 15 years in prison. My grandbabies, I whispered. What happens to my grandbabies? That's not your concern right now, Isaiah said firmly. Your concern is protecting yourself. They've put you in over $300,000 of debt, Mrs. Washington. If we don't act fast, you could lose your house. I looked up at him. How? I thought the house was mine. The forged second mortgage is due. They haven't made a single payment. The bank is starting foreclosure proceedings. You have 60 days before they can take your house. Everything Jerome and I had worked for, the house where I raised Marcus, the house where I brought my grandbabies home from the hospital for their first visit, the house I thought I'd die in someday, gone because of my own son. What do I do? My voice didn't sound like my own. Detective Hayes pulled out a document. You file a police report. Today, we open an investigation, freeze their assets, and start building a criminal case. You'll also need to file an identity theft report with the credit bureaus and the mortgage company. But Marcus is a grown man who committed multiple felonies against his own mother, Isaiah said, and his voice was hard now. He made his choice. Now you need to make yours. Are you going to protect yourself, or are you going to let them destroy you? I thought about that moment of hesitation. I thought about Keisha's cruel words. I thought about 3 years of lies. What do I need to sign? The next 3 hours were a blur of paperwork and police statements. Detective Hayes was patient, walking me through every detail. When it was over, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. The detective squad will pick them up tomorrow morning for questioning, Detective Hayes said. I wanted to give you advance notice. Things are about to get very public. I drove home in a daze. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw someone sitting on my front porch. For a moment, I thought it was Marcus, and my heart leaped. But as I got closer, I realized it was my neighbor, Mrs. Patricia Johnson. She was 72, lived 3 houses down, and we'd been friendly for years but never really close. Patricia, what are you doing here? She stood up, and I saw she'd been crying. Loretta, I need to tell you something. I should have told you months ago, but I was afraid. Now I can't stay quiet anymore. What is it? Can we go inside? I made us both tea, my hands still shaking from the morning's revelations. Patricia sat at my kitchen table, wringing her hands. I've seen Keisha, she said finally, with another man, multiple times, at your house. I froze, the teacup halfway to my mouth. What? When you're not home, she brings a man there, a young man, maybe 30 years old. They stay for hours. I've seen her kiss him goodbye at the door. Loretta, I'm so sorry. I didn't know if I should tell you or Marcus or just stay out of it. But after I saw her yelling at you yesterday through your window, I knew I had to speak up. I set down my teacup very carefully. How many times? At least a dozen over the past 6 months. Always during the day when Marcus is at work. I called Isaiah immediately. Can we use adultery in the case? Georgia is a no-fault divorce state, but if Marcus doesn't know about the affair, it could help convince him to cooperate with us. Do you have any proof? I looked at Patricia. Do you have any pictures? Any evidence? She pulled out her phone. I started taking pictures last month. I don't know why. I guess I felt like you'd need them someday. There they were. Clear photographs of Keisha and a handsome young man embracing on my front porch. Kissing, him leaving late in the afternoon, date stamps on every photo. Mrs. Washington, Isaiah's voice came through the phone. Are you there? I'm sending you some photos right now. Keisha's been having an affair in my house, using the key I gave them for emergencies. Isaiah was quiet for a moment. Send them to me and to Detective Hayes. This shows pattern of deception and might help us establish that Marcus is also a victim of her manipulation. It could help with plea negotiations if he's willing to turn on her. After Patricia left, I sat alone in my quiet house and cried. Not for Marcus anymore, not for Keisha, but for my grandbabies, Deshawn and Destiny, who were about to see their world fall apart. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. We know what you did. Drop the charges or you'll never see the twins again. My blood ran cold. I called Isaiah immediately. They're threatening you. Forward me that text right now. That's witness intimidation, which is another felony. But the twins, they can't legally keep your grandchildren from you, Mrs. Washington. Document every threat. We're building a case that's going to bury them. That night, I went to Wednesday evening service at First Baptist Church, where I'd been a member for 30 years. I needed my church family. I needed prayer. I needed to feel like I wasn't alone in this. Pastor Williams greeted me at the door with a warm hug. Sister Loretta, it's good to see you. You've been on my heart lately. Pastor, I need to talk to you about Marcus. After service in his office, I told him everything. Every dollar, every lie, every threat. When I finished, Pastor Williams sat back in his chair, his face grave. Sister Loretta, the Bible tells us to honor our father and mother. What Marcus has done is not just illegal. It's a sin against God and against you. You are doing the right thing by protecting yourself. But he's my son, and you are his mother, who deserves honor and respect. Sometimes love means holding people accountable for their actions. You can still love Marcus while refusing to be destroyed by him. I feel like I'm losing my family. Pastor Williams reached across his desk and took my hand. You're not losing anything. You're saving yourself, and this church family is here for you. Whatever you need. He kept his word. By Sunday morning, half the congregation knew what happened, not from gossip, but because Pastor Williams had quietly asked the prayer warriors and the deacons to rally around me. Sisters I barely knew were bringing me food. Brothers from the church were checking on my house. Mother Daniels, who was 85 years old and sharper than a tack, came by with her lawyer son to offer free legal advice. Baby, she said, sitting in my living room with her Bible in her lap, I've been knowing you since you was a young bride with Jerome. That boy of yours has lost his way, but you ain't losing nothing. You're gaining your dignity back, and the Lord is going to see you through this. Monday morning came too fast. I was sitting in my living room when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Mrs. Washington, this is Rachel from Deshawn and Destiny's school. I'm calling because neither parent came to pick up the twins today, and we can't reach Marcus or Keisha. You're listed as the emergency contact. My heart stopped. What do you mean they didn't pick them up? The police came to the house this morning to arrest both parents. We were notified by Child Services. The children need to be picked up immediately. I was in my car before she finished talking. When I got to the school, my grandbabies were sitting in the office with a child services worker. Deshaun saw me first. "Grandma!" He ran into my arms, and Destiny was right behind him. "Where's Mommy?" Destiny asked, her little face scared and confused. "They said Mommy and Daddy had to go somewhere." I held them both close, breathing in their baby shampoo smell, feeling their small bodies shaking. "Grandma's here. Everything's going to be okay." The child services worker, a tired-looking black woman in her 40s named Michelle, pulled me aside. "Mrs. Washington, we've been trying to contact other family members, but both children only have you listed. Are you able to take temporary custody while we sort this out?" "Of course. They're my grandbabies. There's going to be a hearing in 3 days. Both parents are being held without bail due to flight risk. The children need a stable environment." I took Deshaun and Destiny home to my house. They were confused, asking questions I couldn't answer yet. I made them dinner, chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, their favorites, and let them watch cartoons while I tried to process what was happening. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Keisha's mother, screaming at me that I was destroying her daughter's life. Marcus's friends, asking what was going on. Reporters, somehow having gotten my number, asking for comments. I turned off my phone and focused on the twins. That night, after I tucked them into the guest room, my old sewing room that I'd quickly converted into a temporary bedroom, Deshaun looked up at me with his big brown eyes. "Grandma, are we going to live with you now?" "For a little while, baby, just until everything gets sorted out." "I like it here," he whispered. "Mommy's always mad at home. You're never mad." Something broke inside me. These babies had been living in that toxic environment, watching their mother's rage, feeling the tension, and I'd been funding it all. "Grandma loves you," I said, kissing his forehead. "No matter what happens, Grandma loves you." After they fell asleep, I went to my room and finally let myself fall apart. I cried for my son, who I'd lost to greed and a manipulative woman. I cried for my grandbabies, whose lives were about to change forever. I cried for myself, for the retirement I'd planned, for the money I'd lost, for the betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. But somewhere in the middle of that crying, something shifted. I felt a strength rising up in me that I hadn't felt since Jerome died. A determination, a resolve. They had taken my money. They had forged my name. They had threatened me and insulted me and treated me like I was nothing. But I was still standing, and I had my grandbabies now, safe under my roof. The next morning, Isaiah called with news. Marcus wants to make a deal. He's willing to testify against Keisha in exchange for a reduced sentence. He claims she masterminded everything and manipulated him into going along with it. Is that true? Does it matter? He still did it. He still signed the documents, spent the money, and let it happen. But if he cooperates, we can get your money back faster, and he might only serve 2 to 3 years instead of 10. 2 to 3 years, my son in prison. What about the twins? If Marcus gives up his parental rights temporarily, you can get full legal custody while he's serving his sentence. Keisha's fighting it. She's demanding supervised visitation. After what she said about me, after the threats, her lawyer is claiming you're alienating the children and using them as pawns. The hearing is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mrs. Washington, I need you to be prepared. This is going to get ugly. He had no idea how right he was, because that evening, Keisha's parents showed up at my door with their own lawyer, and what they demanded would make everything that came before look like a warm-up. "We're suing you for grandparents' rights," Keisha's mother announced, her face twisted with hatred. "And we're filing a motion to have you declared an unfit guardian. Those children are going to live with us, and there's nothing you can do about it." I looked at this woman, with her designer clothes and her cold eyes, and I realized something important. This war wasn't over. It was just beginning. I stood in my doorway, looking at Keisha's parents, Richard and Gloria Patterson, and their lawyer, a slick-looking white man in an expensive suit, who was already sizing up my house like he owned it. "You can't sue for grandparents' rights," I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was racing. "You're not their grandparents. I am." Gloria Patterson's face twisted into something ugly. "We're their maternal grandparents, and we have just as much right to those children as you do. More, actually, since you've clearly brainwashed Marcus into turning against our daughter." "I brainwashed him? Your daughter stole over $300,000 from me." "Alleged theft," their lawyer said smoothly, "which has not been proven in court. And regardless of any financial disputes between adults, the welfare of the children is paramount. My clients are prepared to provide a stable, two-parent household with substantial financial resources." "Get off my property," I said. "If you want to see the twins, you can take it up with the judge tomorrow." "We will," Gloria hissed. "And when we're done, you'll never see Deshawn and Destiny again. Just like you'll never see that money you claim we stole. Good luck proving anything, you pathetic old woman." I closed the door in her face and immediately called Isaiah. "They can file for grandparents' rights, but they have an uphill battle," Isaiah explained. "Georgia law generally favors blood relatives, and you're the biological grandmother with an established relationship. Plus, their daughter is currently in jail for crimes committed against you. No judge is going to look favorably on that." "What about the unfit guardian claim?" "That's harder to fight. They're going to try to paint you as too old, too poor, too unstable. We need character witnesses. People who can testify that you're a fit guardian." "I have my whole church." "Then call them. We need them in that courtroom tomorrow." I spent the evening making phone calls. Pastor Williams promised to be there. Candace said she wouldn't miss it for the world. Mother Daniels was already planning what to wear. Even Patricia, my neighbor who'd witnessed Keisha's affair, volunteered to testify. But that night, after the twins were asleep, I sat alone in my living room and let myself feel the weight of it all. My son was in jail. My life savings were gone. My house was in foreclosure. And now I had to fight for the right to protect my own grandbabies. How had it come to this? My phone buzzed. A text from another unknown number. "This is Marcus. They gave me one phone call, and I used it to get your number from my lawyer. Mom, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Please don't let Keisha's parents take the twins. Please." I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me wanted to forgive him, to believe he was truly sorry. But another part of me, the part that had been hardened by betrayal, remembered his hesitation, his choice. I typed back, "You should have thought about the twins before you forged my signature and stole my retirement." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "You're right. I deserve everything that's happening to me, but the twins don't. Please, Mom, fight for them." I didn't respond. The courtroom was packed the next morning. On one side sat Keisha's parents with their expensive lawyer and several character witnesses, business associates, country club friends, people in designer clothes who'd probably never struggled a day in their lives. On my side sat my church family, Pastor Williams in his best suit, Mother Daniels with her Bible, Candace holding my hand, Patricia with her folder of evidence, and at least 20 other members of First Baptist, filling the benches behind me in a show of support that made my eyes water. The judge was a black woman in her 60s named Judge Carolyn Mitchell. She looked over her glasses at the crowded courtroom with a slightly raised eyebrow. "Well," she said dryly, "I see we have a full house today. Let's proceed. This is a hearing to determine temporary custody of minors Deshawn and Destiny Turner, age 5. Mrs. Loretta Washington, the paternal grandmother, currently has emergency custody. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson are petitioning for grandparents' rights and custody. Let's hear from the Pattersons' counsel first." Their lawyer stood, smooth and confident. "Your Honor, my clients are deeply concerned about the welfare of their grandchildren. Mrs. Washington is 67 years old, living on a fixed income, and currently involved in a bitter financial dispute with the children's parents. She is not equipped emotionally, financially, or physically to care for 2 active 5-year-olds. "And your clients are?" Judge Mitchell asked. "My clients are successful business owners with a 4-bedroom home, financial stability, and the ability to provide private education, health care, and every opportunity these children deserve." "Counselor, let me ask you something," Judge Mitchell said, leaning forward. "Where were your clients when their daughter was stealing from Mrs. Washington? When she was forging documents and committing fraud?" The lawyer's smile faltered. "Your Honor, my clients had no knowledge. Their failing business received a $150,000 bailout from the stolen money. You're telling me they didn't ask where that money came from?" I watched Gloria Patterson's face go red. "Your Honor, that money was presented as a loan from Keisha and Marcus, a loan from a young couple to successful business owners. That didn't raise any red flags." Judge Mitchell shook her head. "Continue." The lawyer called his first witness, a child psychologist who had never met me or the twins, but was prepared to testify about the difficulties of elderly caregivers. Isaiah objected on the grounds that the testimony was speculative, and Judge Mitchell sustained it. Then they called Gloria Patterson herself. "Mrs. Patterson, tell the court about your relationship with your grandchildren," the lawyer said. Gloria dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "We've been very involved in their lives since they were born. We see them at least twice a month for family dinners. We've taken them on vacations. We love them dearly." "And what are your concerns about Mrs. Washington as their guardian?" "Well, she's quite elderly, for one thing, and she's clearly vindictive and manipulative. She's turned Marcus against his own wife, destroyed my daughter's marriage, and now she's using those children as weapons in her vendetta." I felt Candace squeeze my hand tight. "No further questions," the lawyer said smugly. Isaiah stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Patterson, you said you see the children twice a month?" "Yes, for family dinners." Can you tell me the name of Deshawn's teacher? Gloria blinked. I'm not sure. They just started school this year. They're in kindergarten, and it's October. You don't know his teacher's name? Isaiah pulled out a paper. What about Destiny's favorite color? Pink, I assume. Most little girls like pink. It's purple. What food is Deshawn allergic to? I don't. Keisha handles those details. He's allergic to strawberries. Has been since he was 2. You didn't know that? Isaiah walked closer to the witness stand. Mrs. Patterson, isn't it true that your involvement with your grandchildren has been limited to occasional supervised visits, while Mrs. Bassam Washington has been the primary caregiver whenever your daughter needed help? Keisha never needed help. She's a wonderful mother. A wonderful mother who left her children at school with no one to pick them up while she was being arrested for fraud. A wonderful mother who was having an affair in Mrs. Washington's home while her husband was at work. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Gloria's lawyer shot to his feet. Objection! Relevance! Your Honor, it goes to the character of the household these children were living in, and the character of the people petitioning for custody, Isaiah said calmly. I'll allow it, Judge Mitchell said. Mrs. Patterson, were you aware your daughter was having an extramarital affair? Gloria's face went pale. That's a lie. Isaiah held up Patricia's photos. These are time-stamped photographs of Keisha Patterson Turner with an unidentified male engaged in intimate behavior at Mrs. Washington's residence on multiple occasions. Would you like to see them? No. Gloria looked like she might be sick. Even if that's true, it has nothing to do with our ability to care for the children. Doesn't it? Your daughter committed fraud with stolen money from Mrs. Washington, used that money to bail out your failing business, conducted an affair in the victim's home, and then threatened the victim when she tried to protect herself. And you're asking this court to reward that behavior by giving you custody of children you can't even tell me basic information about? We love those children. Love isn't enough, Mrs. Patterson. Those children need stability, consistency, and someone who actually knows them. Isaiah turned to the judge. No further questions. Gloria practically fled from the witness stand. Then it was our turn. Isaiah called Pastor Williams first. The pastor spoke about my character, my decades of service to the church, my dedication to family and community. He spoke about watching me raise Marcus alone after Jerome died, about the sacrifices I'd made. Mrs. Washington is one of the strongest, most faithful women I've ever known, Pastor Williams said. Those children are blessed to have her. Mother Daniels was next. At 85 years old, she took the stand with the authority of a queen. I've known Loretta Washington for 40 years, she said, and I've seen her weather every storm with grace and dignity. She raised a good man. He just lost his way. But those babies, they're safe with her, they're loved with her, and that's what matters. Then Candace testified about our friendship, about my character, about my health and capability. Patricia testified about what she'd witnessed, not just the affair, but how I interacted with the twins, how they lit up when they saw me, how patient and loving I was with them. Finally, Isaiah called me to the stand. Mrs. Washington, tell the court about your relationship with your grandchildren. I took a deep breath. I've been in their lives since before they were born. I was in the delivery room when they came into this world. I've babysat them at least twice a week since they were infants. I know that Deshawn loves dinosaurs and wants to be a paleontologist. I know that Destiny is left-handed and loves to draw. I know that they both sleep with nightlights because Deshawn is afraid of the dark, and Destiny won't eat vegetables unless they're mixed into her pasta. What happened when you picked them up from school 2 days ago? They ran into my arms. They were scared and confused, but they trusted me. That night, Deshawn told me he liked staying at my house because I'm never angry like his mother is. My voice broke. These are my grandbabies. I've spent 3 years funding their lives, making sure they had everything they needed. I may have lost my savings, but I will never lose them. Not to people who don't even know they exist half the time. No further questions. The Pattersons' lawyer tried to rattle me on cross-examination, asking about my age, my financial situation, my vendetta against Keisha, but I stayed calm. I'm 67 years old, which means I have wisdom and experience. I'm on a fixed income. Unsumsian income, but I've managed money responsibly my entire life, unlike your client's daughter. And I don't have a vendetta. I have boundaries. There's a difference. When the custody portion ended, Judge Mitchell called for a recess. But the day wasn't over. The criminal hearing for Marcus and Keisha was scheduled for that afternoon in the same courthouse. During the recess, Marcus's lawyer approached me. Mrs. Washington, Marcus wants to speak with you. He's asked if you'll see him before the hearing. My church family surrounded me, protective. You don't have to, Candace said, but I did have to, for closure if nothing else. They brought Marcus into a small conference room in handcuffs. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes red, face gaunt. When he saw me, he started crying. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I sat down across from him, my hands folded on the table. Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught? Both. All of it. I was weak, Mom. Keisha. She had this way of making me feel like I was never enough. Never made enough money. Never gave her enough. Never was enough. And I wanted to be enough so badly that I let her convince me that taking from you was okay. That you had plenty. That you'd never even notice. But I did notice, and I did care. I know, and I destroyed everything. My marriage, my freedom, my relationship with you. All of it. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I'm going to plead guilty. I'm going to testify against Keisha. And I'm going to give up my parental rights to you temporarily. The twins deserve better than this. Marcus, no, Mom. You were right about all of it. Keisha used me, she used you, and I let it happen because I was too much of a coward to stand up to her. But I'm standing up now. I'm telling the truth. And I'm accepting whatever punishment I get. I felt tears rolling down my cheeks. Why now? Why not when I asked you to choose? Because I was still under her spell. But being in that cell, away from her, I finally saw clearly. She doesn't love me. She never did. She loved what she could get from me, from us. And I'm ashamed that it took losing everything for me to see it. I reached across the table and took his shackled hands. I still love you. I'm angry and I'm hurt, and I may never fully trust you again. But you're my son. I still love you. I don't deserve it. Love isn't about deserving, it's about choosing. And I choose to love you, even though you broke my heart. We sat there crying together until the guards said it was time. The criminal hearing was swift and brutal. Keisha showed up in designer clothes, looking defiant. Her lawyer tried to argue that she'd been set up, that Marcus had manipulated her, that I was exaggerating the theft. Then Isaiah presented the evidence. Bank statements, forged documents, credit card bills, the second mortgage papers with my forged signature, analyzed by handwriting experts. Photographs of the affair, text message threats, recorded conversations. It was damning, irrefutable, complete. Marcus took the stand and testified against Keisha. He admitted everything, the stealing, the forgery, the lies. He explained how Keisha had pressured him, manipulated him, convinced him it was okay. She said my mother owed us, that she'd had her turn at life, and now it was our turn, that we deserved to live well, and my mother was being selfish by not giving us everything we wanted. His voice was flat, dead. I believed her, and I'm ashamed. Keisha's face was murderous. When it was her turn, she tried to cry, to play the victim. But Detective Hayes presented evidence of her affair, her threats, her history of manipulating people for money, including a previous boyfriend she'd convinced to give her access to his accounts. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the state is recommending 7 years for Mrs. Turner and 3 years for Mr. Turner, given his cooperation and remorse. I'll consider the recommendation, Judge Mitchell said. But first, I want to address the custody matter. We all went back to the family courtroom. Judge Mitchell looked over her glasses at everyone assembled. I've heard testimony from both sides today, and I've reviewed all the evidence presented. Let me be clear about something. Grandparents' rights exist to protect children's relationships with loving grandparents when parents interfere. They do not exist to reward criminal behavior or to punish victims of that behavior. She looked directly at the Pattersons. Marin Mrs. Patterson, your daughter committed serious crimes against Mrs. Washington. Whether you were aware of the full extent or not, you benefited from those crimes. You have no grounds to claim custody of these children, and your petition for grandparents' rights is denied. Gloria gasped. Richard looked furious. Furthermore, Judge Mitchell continued, Mrs. Washington has demonstrated an established, loving relationship with her grandchildren. She knows them, cares for them, and has sacrificed greatly for their well-being. Mr. Turner has voluntarily terminated his parental rights temporarily. Mrs. Turner's parental rights are suspended pending the outcome of her criminal trial. She looked at me. Mrs. Washington, I am granting you full temporary custody of Deshawn and Destiny Turner. We'll revisit this in 6 months to determine if it should become permanent. In the meantime, you have full authority to make decisions regarding their care, education, and well-being. I burst into tears. Candace hugged me. Pastor Williams said, Thank you, Jesus, loud enough for the whole courtroom to hear. But Judge Mitchell wasn't done. I'm also ordering the immediate freeze and seizure of assets from both Simon and Mrs. Turner to begin restitution to Mrs. Washington. The house they purchased with her money will be sold, and the proceeds will go toward repaying her. The cars, the jewelry, the vacation property, all of it will be liquidated. Mrs. Patterson, if your business received stolen funds, you may be subject to clawback provisions. Gloria looked like she might faint. Finally, Judge Mitchell said, looking at Keisha. Mrs. Turner, I'm revoking your bail. You will remain in custody until sentencing. The evidence of threats, witness intimidation, and flight risk is too substantial. Keisha started screaming. This isn't fair. That old bitch manipulated everyone. She's not even fit to take care of herself, let alone my children. Bailiff, Judge Mitchell said calmly, and Keisha was dragged from the courtroom, still screaming obscenities. Marcus was led away quietly, his head down, but just before he left, he looked back at me and mouthed, "Thank you." Outside the courtroom, my church family surrounded me, celebrating. Isaiah pulled me aside with a smile. "Mrs. Washington, we won. Everything. Custody, restitution, justice. You did it." "We did it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this alone." "There's one more thing," Isaiah said. "The mortgage company has agreed to void the forged second mortgage once the criminal conviction is final. Your house is safe." I had to sit down on a bench in the courthouse hallway. My house, my grandbabies, my dignity, all of it saved. That evening, I took Deshawn and Destiny out for ice cream. They were too young to understand everything that had happened, but they knew they were staying with Grandma, and that made them happy. "Grandma, can we live with you forever?" Destiny asked, chocolate ice cream on her nose. "We'll see, baby, but you're with Grandma for a long time. That's what matters." "Good," Deshawn said, "because I like it here. You make the best pancakes." The simple joy in their voices, the security in their eyes, that was worth everything I'd lost and more. Over the next few months, life slowly returned to normal. Marcus was sentenced to 3 years with possibility of parole in 18 months. Keisha got 7 years with no parole. The house was sold, the assets liquidated. I recovered about $200,000 of what they'd stolen. Not everything, but enough to rebuild my savings and secure the twins' future. The Pattersons tried to sue me twice more, once for alienation of affection, and once claiming I'd defamed Gloria's character. Both suits were dismissed, and the judge warned them that one more frivolous lawsuit would result in sanctions. Keisha's parents eventually moved to Florida, unable to face the shame in their community. I heard through the grapevine that their business ended up closing anyway. Marcus wrote me letters from prison. At first, I couldn't read them, but eventually I did. They were full of remorse, apologies, and slowly, very slowly, they began to show growth. He was taking classes, going to therapy, working on himself. I wrote back, short letters at first, then longer ones. I wasn't ready to forgive completely, but I was willing to walk that path, for him, for the twins, for myself. The twins thrived. Deshawn was reading above grade level. Destiny joined a children's art class at the community center. They had nightmares sometimes about the day their parents were arrested. But with therapy and love and stability, they were healing. 6 months after that first hearing, Judge Mitchell made the custody permanent. The twins were officially mine until Marcus completed his sentence and could prove he was rehabilitated and stable. A year after everything fell apart, I was sitting on my front porch with Candace, watching the twins play in the yard. It was a beautiful spring day, warm and bright. "How you feeling, girl?" Candace asked. "Blessed," I said, and I meant it. I lost money, but I gained peace. I lost the son I thought I knew, but I'm getting to know the man he's becoming. And I have my grandbabies. What about your retirement plans? All that traveling you wanted to do? I smiled. There'll be time for that later. Right now, I'm exactly where I need to be. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Mom, I'm being released early for good behavior. 3 months from now. Can I call you? I stared at that text for a long moment. 3 years of healing. 3 years of rebuilding. 3 years of learning what real love looks like. Not the enabling, sacrificial to the point of destruction kind, but the strong, boundaried, healthy kind. I texted back, yes, call me Sunday afternoon. Candace looked over my shoulder and whistled. You sure about that? No, I admitted, but I'm sure about giving him a chance to prove he's changed. Just a chance, nothing more until he earns it. That's my girl, strong and wise. That Sunday, Marcus called. We talked for 30 minutes, the maximum the prison allowed. He told me about his classes, his therapy, his plans for when he got out. He asked about the twins, and I could hear the longing in his voice. Mom, I know I don't deserve to be part of their lives right now, but I want to be better. I want to be the father they deserve and the son you deserved all along. Then be that man, I said simply. Not for me, not for them, for yourself. Because if you're not doing it for yourself, it won't last. You're right, like always. Not always, but I'm learning. We both are. When he was released 3 months later, I didn't go to pick him up. I'd offered, but he declined. I need to do this myself, Mom. Stand on my own 2 feet. He found a job at a warehouse, started over in a small apartment, began the long process of rebuilding his life. He called every Sunday to talk to the twins, supervised phone calls at first, then video calls. After 6 months of sobriety, stability, and therapy, I agreed to let him visit. He came to Sunday dinner at my house, and the twins were shy at first, not quite remembering this man who was their father. But Marcus was patient. He played dinosaurs with Deshawn. He colored with Destiny. He helped me clean up after dinner without being asked. And when he left, he hugged me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I gave up on the man you were, I told him, but I believe in the man you're becoming. It's been 2 years now since that day Keisha screamed about the password. The twins are 7 and thriving. Marcus has worked his way up to assistant manager at his job. He sees the twins every other weekend now, supervised visits at my house. We're building something new, not the relationship we had before, but something healthier. Stronger, built on truth instead of enabling. He's dating someone new, a teacher named Angela who seems genuine and kind. She's met the twins once, briefly, and Marcus asked my opinion afterward. She seems nice, I said, but take your time, really get to know her, and make sure she knows you come with accountability now. He laughed. She already knows. She asked to meet you specifically because she said she needed to know the woman who raised me right the first time and is helping me get right the second time. As for Keisha, I heard she tried to appeal her sentence and failed. She'll be in prison for at least 4 more years. The twins ask about her sometimes, and I'm honest but kind. Your mommy made some mistakes, and she's learning from them. Grandma hopes one day she'll be better, but right now, you're safe with me. That's all they need to know. I still go to First Baptist every Sunday. Pastor Williams still preaches about family, forgiveness, and restoration. But now he also preaches about boundaries, wisdom, and knowing when to let go. After service last Sunday, Mother Daniels pulled me aside. "You know what I'm most proud of?" she said, her aged eyes bright and fierce. "You didn't just survive. You didn't just get your money back. You got yourself back, your dignity, your strength, your joy. That's what real victory looks like." She was right. I have a little money in savings again, not as much as before, but enough. My house is mine, free and clear. My grandbabies are happy and healthy. My son is learning what it means to be a man of integrity. And me, I'm learning what it means to love without losing myself. Last week, Deshaun came home from school with a drawing. It was a picture of our family, him, Destiny, me, and Marcus, all holding hands in front of my house. At the top, in his careful 7-year-old handwriting, he'd written, "My family is strong because of Grandma." I hung it on my refrigerator, right where I can see it every morning, because that's what this was all about. Not the money, not revenge, not even justice, though justice mattered. It was about knowing my worth, standing in my truth, protecting what mattered, and teaching my grandbabies that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's self-destruction. I'm 69 years old now. I've lost and gained and lost and gained again. But I'm still here, still standing, still strong. And that's the real shock that Keisha and Marcus never saw coming. They thought they could break me. But what they didn't know was that I was built by a generation that survived Jim Crow, poverty, discrimination, and every kind of hardship. I was raised by women who knew how to bend without breaking, how to fight without losing themselves, how to love fiercely while protecting their own hearts. They thought I was weak because I was kind. They thought I was foolish because I was generous. They thought I was defeated because I was quiet. They were wrong on all counts. Every Sunday after church, I sit on my porch with my grandbabies and we talk about life, about kindness and boundaries, about family and forgiveness, about standing strong in your truth, even when it costs you everything. "Grandma," Destiny asked me last week, "how did you know what to do when Mommy and Daddy were being mean?" I thought about that for a long moment. Baby girl, I listened to my heart. My heart told me that real love doesn't destroy you. Real love doesn't take everything and leave you with nothing. Real love builds up, not tears down, and when I realized what was happening wasn't love, it was stealing, I chose to love myself enough to stop it. Even though it was hard? Especially because it was hard, the right thing usually is. She nodded solemnly, processing this with her 7-year-old wisdom. Then she hugged me tight and said, "I love you, Grandma. You're the strongest person I know." I held her close and thought about everything we'd been through. The betrayal, the courtroom battles, the tears and anger, and heartbreak, but also the community that rallied around me, the faith that sustained me, the love that healed me. And I realized something profound. I didn't just survive this, I transformed through it. I became the woman I was always meant to be, strong, wise, unbowed, unbroken, free. That's what liberation looks like. Not perfect, not painless, but powerful. And as I sit here on my porch, watching my grandbabies play, knowing my son is slowly finding his way back to integrity, knowing my home is secure and my future is bright. I understand that this is what victory tastes like. Not revenge, not bitterness, but peace. Deep, soul-satisfying peace. They tried to rob me of everything. Instead, they gave me the greatest gift of all. They showed me exactly how strong I really am. And that's a gift nobody can ever take away. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.